Welcome, everyone, back to another exciting episode of the Parkinson's Policy Podcast, where we advocate together to raise awareness and advance meaningful policy for Parkinson's in the entire community. From Washington, D.C., at the Capitol and beyond, we bring together senators, representatives, researchers, and advocates to amplify the voices of the people living with Parkinson's disease and their families. My name is Dr. George Ackerman, Sharon's son and founder of Together for Sharon, and my incredible co-host joining me, Margaret Preston, president of Power Over Parkinson's. And we just want to welcome our incredible community back for another important policy podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, George. And I have the honor to introduce our next guest. Sara Whittingham is a physician, an Air Force veteran, an endurance athlete living with Parkinson's disease. Drawing on both medical training and lived experience, she writes about navigating diagnosis, identity, and life after uncertainty with clarity, compassion, and restraint. And she's the author of her first book, and we're all excited to have a copy of it. I think she's about to pull it out. Yes. Aptly titled, "Oh Crap, It's Parkinson's." So, Sara, without further ado, thank you so much for joining us on our show and for everything you do as a Parkinson's advocate.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely.
Well, I can't see, but I have the socks on.
And that's I didn't wear my socks.
That's something important, because if you meet, I had the honor finally to meet Sara, but she's been someone I consider family for many years. We spent many nights on instant messenger, and also ways to help promote together the community, because together I feel, and I know everyone on this panel will agree, our voices are so much stronger. But to be able to have you back, Sara, just means the world. Especially, we had the honor to meet in DC, and I got to finally see you speak live, and that was not just life-changing for me, but sitting there, I wanted to jump up and hug you, and I didn't want you to I would have been thrown out, so we didn't do that. But we want to start today. Obviously, the book's incredible, and it's making its rounds worldwide. Also, I know some exciting news. Hope we're okay to say, but we'll be on a panel together at the World Parkinson Congress, and talking about the different books and things, and just going to be exciting. But there's always so much more to come. As of right now, though, there's something even more important, which is policy. But before we start that journey, I want to thank you for your service, of course, and friendship, but also everybody listening. We want to say I love to the veterans out there. Sara's leading the way too with that. We would need a 12-hour show, so we'll stick to the topics. And I was wondering what engaged you, encouraged you to stand up in a way and fight for so many in the community, which you've been doing for many years now.
Yes, I never expected I would be someone who took on this role. I'm very much an introvert, but once I realized how much needed to be said, I became very passionate about making sure that message got out. I really struggled my first year after my Parkinson's diagnosis, because I pictured a future based upon what I had learned about Parkinson's in medical school, and that awful diagram of the hunched over old man who gets shorter into a hunched over and into a wheelchair. And when I was imagining a life of decline, that's what happened. But I was super fortunate to be enrolled in a research study at Cleveland Clinic, studying the effects of cycling, and it was really a lifeline for me, and I felt like I was coming back to life. I ended up going on to finish Ironman Hawaii, Boston Marathon, and ran in the Paralympic trials. And as part of that, I just really wanted to get the message out there that it's really important for us to set big goals and take small steps toward them every day. Because when we imagine a future of possibility, that becomes reality. And what we imagine for our futures is very much a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so when we imagine a future of disability and decline, we're taking steps to prepare for that rather than taking steps to live fully today. And so that's one of my big messages I want to get out to both people with Parkinson's, but also our care partners and the physicians and medical community, because I feel like so many people focus on the decline rather than helping people live their best lives today.
Thanks. And just so you know, you might know already, but on some of the tougher days I have, still struggling 6 years later, losing my mother, when I see a text or an email or just a message from you, it really does motivate me to realize I can't give up, because we still have work to do. But knowing someone like you is leading the way, and we're honored to be by your side, just pushes me to never give up. So thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Sara, you were recently appointed to the National Plan Council. Tell us that moment walk us through that moment, the moment you found out, as well, what does it mean to you as we progress this bill, this law
Yeah.
now, into
Finally,
action? What
almost
does
2
that
years
mean?
later, we're finally getting somewhere. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
little bit frustrating that it's taken this long to get somewhere, and I'm hoping that we can start doing some things that will have impact and make change. Um, yeah, I happened to be on the phone trying to wire money to the publisher, the printer of my book, when the email came across. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna mess this up, but it all turned out okay. Yeah, no, I was super excited. I was very kind of surprised at the opportunity. I know there were so many super qualified and incredible people who applied and were nominated for that position, and so I feel it's a huge honor, and I hope that I can live up to the expectation and help advance and make life better for all of us and our families.
Absolutely. No, I think you are aptly positioned to speak not only as a veteran, a physician, and a person with Parkinson's. Your perspectives are going to add immense value on the council, and we're excited to see all you all accomplish together.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well.
I was really happy when I saw you announce it. I don't know if you can tell us anything. I know some of this is top secret, but is there anything? I
There's
know.
not, I think I don't know that there's really anything
Right.
new. They've started to work on some dates for us to have meetings. So that's some progress. But I don't really have anything new or interesting to share at this point.
I almost feel like on this show we need a ticker, I think it's called, where they have a news flash anytime Sarah writes that. So only the things are allowed, but it's really, again, great to know that at least somebody we know is on will be representing this all. So thank you.
Thank you.
One area we wanted to touch today, at least on, is, we say this every show, which is just fascinating and exciting. That, like you said, federal legislation, the first time is just 2 years ago. We're in a time, I feel like, part of literal history. So it's an honor to be a part of that, where we're making such incredible, groundbreaking changes and things to come, especially now with you also making a huge impact on that committee or council. What policy changes, though, at the state and federal level do you believe would have the greatest impact on improving access for care and support services for those individuals living with Parkinson today?
Yeah, I think there's a huge area for impact in that area. I think a lot of people aren't getting diagnosed, or taking months and sometimes years to get diagnosed with Parkinson's after they start having symptoms. Because that stereotype is still out there that it's an older man's disease. And so people who don't fit that stereotype are taking a lot longer to get diagnosed and to begin treatment. And so I think one of the biggest, highest impact things that we could do is to really work towards educating our primary care physicians and nurse practitioners more about Parkinson's, how to recognize it early, and that what the guidelines are currently are as far as starting treatment and medication early. Right now, somebody gets diagnosed, if their primary care physician or nurse practitioner or PA suspects something, they'll refer that person to a neurologist, and then they'll wait 6 months maybe to see the neurologist, and then, oh yes, it looks like you have Parkinson's, but let's send you to the movement disorder specialist. Another few months go by, and so some can take up to a year sometimes for somebody to get diagnosed, when in reality it's the beginning of the treatment is a very simple, straightforward thing that could be initiated a lot sooner by our primary care providers and free up our movement disorder specialists for the people who are more complex or more complicated and have not done well with those initial standard treatments. When we look at diabetes as an excellent example, back in the day, somebody would get diagnosed with diabetes and they'd get referred to an endocrinologist for specialized care. Now, most of that treatment is happening in primary care because primary care physicians are trained and are confident in their ability to manage that. They've set up community programs, diabetes education programs right away at the primary care level to get people educated. I think, the things that benefit somebody newly diagnosed with Parkinson's the most aren't something that physicians need to be spending their time on. It's something that community support, PD 101 classes, sending groups of newly diagnosed people, bringing them together and setting them down and explaining to them what it means, and let them kind of talk amongst each other and realize that they're not alone in all of this. And things like that have such huge impact. But the way our system is set up, there's no funding to support those kinds of things. And so they're not happening. It's very frustrating to see the things that make the biggest impact don't really cost that much, but there's nobody paying for them or who's willing to pay for them. So it ends up being philanthropic organizations, nonprofits, who end up putting together, support groups and exercise programs, when that stuff has such huge impact that I feel like it should be more supported as part of essential medical care, like diabetes education is for somebody who gets diagnosed. And so I think there's so much room to gain in that way, as far as moving the diagnosis sooner by educating our primary care providers and, making sure that they know it's okay to, if their person's having symptoms, go ahead and start Sinemet right away. Get them feeling better and get them connected. Don't make them wait 6 months to go see a specialist, because all that is delays, progression. And during that time, those people are going home and searching the internet and finding the worst possible of everything. And so they end up on this, continuous decline, when in reality, it would be so easy to get them connected earlier and on an upward trajectory. And so I feel strongly that would be, very low-hanging fruit of something that could be done to, one, improve access to care, because if you're able to get more people being cared for at the primary care level, that frees up our movement disorder specialists for the more complicated people who are maybe more advanced, or they're not responding to traditional treatment. And it frees them up in their appointments for the people that are more complex, that could benefit from their expertise as well.
That's great.
A lot.
I haven't looked back on my mother, and we don't even know, to be honest, how long she knew she had Parkinson's. I thought it was 15 years, and I was told no, it was 18, but who knows even beyond that, if she was told the right information, how to treat it. And, looking forward, I hope that these areas, as you bring them up, will make a big difference for those battling today and tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't agree. I was probably going to nod myself right out of my chair, because I'm like, yes to everything you were saying. My dad was probably symptomatic 10 years prior to diagnosis, and everything that you described was his reality, in terms of, having a symptom here and there, but no one could quite piece them all together as a Parkinson's diagnosis. And neither could we, not having known a lot about the disease and only assuming it's a tremor, which he did not have. We all thought, it's Parkinson's is synonymous with a tremor. If you don't have it, we don't really know what's going on, right? So there was so many question marks. So I cannot agree with you, Mark, more in terms of foundational expertise that we can give to the nurse practitioners, we can give to the general neurologist, to kind of pinpoint a little sooner and get patients feeling on track a little bit sooner, and feeling a little bit better, and having, kind of a better understanding a lot quicker as to what's going on. And of course, that kind of dovetailed into us starting Power Over Parkinson's, because you said the nonprofits have to fill the gap. So because he was a little bit alone and unsure, and we didn't really have a lot of resources right here outside of Richmond, we created Power Over Parkinson's 8 years ago, because we wanted to fill that gap with exercise, support, community, all the things it takes to live well with the disease. So you wrapped everything up so well. And what you spoke of is, I think, a lot representative of a lot of people's experience, not just my dad's, et cetera. I think it's a big issue, and one that, we're excited to watch you and those folks who are implementing the now law to really solve and crack. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I wanted to jump in, as both a physician and someone living with Parkinson's, how do you think current healthcare policy falls short in addressing the long-term day-to-day realities of patients? So, and what specific changes would you prioritize to better support quality of life over the disease trajectories?
Right. I think we need to start looking at Parkinson's and Parkinson's care as more of a whole person approach, rather than just managing symptoms and medications. I think a lot of people go to their neurologist and they talk about what medications I'm on and what do I need to adjust. But there's so much more to living well with Parkinson's. The Movement Disorder Society recently published a paper in October about the wellness pillars for living well with Parkinson's. So things like exercise, nutrition, stress management, having a purpose in life, managing stress, nutrition. I think I'm forgetting something. But anyways, when you improve one, the others become stronger. Or if one pillar is weak, the others suffer as well. Sleep was another one there as well. So helping people understand that living well with Parkinson's isn't just taking your medication and trying to go to an exercise class. It's a full whole person approach that takes a lot of different angles and a lot of support. And right now that support is seems to be a lot on the movement disorder specialists who are overworked and have way too many patients and don't have time or the energy to talk to every patient about all of those things. But it doesn't need to be an MD or a DO who does that. It can be a social worker or just somebody trained in Parkinson's wellness that can take on that role of educating about how to live well with the disease from a whole person standpoint. I think the VA and their system, their PADRICs, where they have a whole person team approach, where a lot of places at the major PADRICs, when somebody comes in, they on that same first day appointment, they often will meet with mental health providers, physical therapy, occupational therapy, potentially speech therapy from the get-go, and they get plugged into that entire team right away. And I think a lot others, I mean, just the way the VA is set up, they're set up to do that. But I mean, that costs a lot of money and a lot of time. And so it's unfortunately there are other places that are doing it, but it's not a widespread as it should be.
Thank you.
Well, as we spoke about and all know, when we went to the policy, it's my second time now, but what an impact it made to have advocates throughout the country in one building, the Capitol. Whether or not one state or city might not have made a dent, I believe everyone together to that weekend. And really the work starts now. And after we got home, we always mention, because not just the people who were in the Capitol that day, but it's everyone around our country can make an impact. How can advocates, healthcare professionals, families all work together to influence lawmakers and prioritize the Parkinson's research funding and patient-centered policy initiatives that we are all hoping will come very soon?
So I mean, there's so many things. Sorry, my dog is freaking out in the background.
We're animal friendly.
Yeah. Yes, an animal friendly show.
Anyway, there's so many things that can be done from a policy standpoint and so many different angles. And so I think it's really important, and that comes with us having a purpose. And I think so that's such an important part of doing well with Parkinson's is finding your purpose. And so there's so many roles for different advocates. I don't think we can have too many advocates in our Parkinson's community. And so I think, as part of our wellness plan, encouraging people how to advocate and find a piece of that puzzle that they are passionate for and focus on that. And we have some people over the top who are kind of help coordinating the effort and making sure that we're not, too disjointed. But there's so much energy and passion within the Parkinson's community, and it does help us do better to have a purpose. And so I think, there's definitely a lot of interest and a lot of advocates. So I think just trying to keep us all organized and all, not hurting a bunch of cats in 20 different directions, but keep us focused on a common goal. This is a little bit of a challenge, but we all want the same thing in the end, and that is to live better and work towards a cure.
Yeah. I do think things like the forum and kind of our bigger foundations are starting to do a great job in tying us all together. I think we're seeing the result of that through more awareness, policy action, et cetera. So I think we're starting to really collect over the last couple of years, and it's exciting to see us kind of we're all rowing in the same direction. So it's great to see.
And even this show, this one, I don't think this would be even something that we talked about or wanted 2 years ago. So this, hopefully everyone listening will share this and support Sara, but also see how important policy is. But it's not going to move forward unless we have everybody at the seat at the table.
Yeah. Just to dovetail on that, I think one of our goals with the show is just showing that advocacy and action and kind of doing your part and taking action is doable and tangible, and kind of breaking it down for folks so it becomes something that doesn't seem daunting, and something that we can all to do a little part that fits with our passion and our skills. So Sara, I wanted to ask, given your experience in military medicine and of course as an endurance athlete, what policy reforms do you believe are needed to improve access to early diagnosis, as we discussed, specialized care and supportive services for Parkinson's patients across diverse populations, including veterans?
Right. So, I mean, I think everything that we can do to raise awareness about these issues, like from every angle. And so I was talking with Dr. Indu Subramanian, who's a movement disorder specialist in LA yesterday, and we were talking about the show Shrinking, and she wanted my perspective on it, and I said, "Oh, I think it's great. We're raising awareness," but she's like, "But there's no women with Parkinson's, or there's no, it's all, it's still older white men," and I was like, "Oh, that's, I hadn't really thought of that. I was just happy to see that it was being talked about, but situations like that might be an opportunity to help bring some of that into the fold. Like maybe if they showed a support group with, a very diverse group of people with Parkinson's, just to get that out into the more mainstream ideas of what Parkinson's is." So I'm happy to see it, being talked about more in the media and in television. And so I think that's one thing that we can do to help raise earlier awareness, both within our society and also our healthcare providers as well, because it's still very much thought of as, I get told, "You don't look like you have Parkinson's." I was like, "Well, I wish I didn't, but here I am." And I think another thing I'm very passionate about is whatever we can do to prevent this disease. That our money is much, much better spent finding ways to prevent this than help, than anything. If the incidence of Parkinson's continues to rise drastically, and we know that there are certain toxins such as paraquat and TCE that increase someone's risks for developing this disease, and yet we are still using those chemicals in our country. And so I think, the efforts to ban those are critical. Very frustrated that DOD has with the TCE ban, the DOD has a 10-year phase out for TCE, which is a chemical that I was exposed to when I worked at Kelly Air Force Base in the late 90s. And so, it's frustrating to me to see, that doesn't seem to be taken seriously, and that the needs of industry and that are using those chemicals and their financial well-being, you're not looking at the enormous cost of every single person that gets Parkinson's as a result of that. And I think, I think probably one of the better ways to approach that is similar to the way we approach cigarettes. You don't make them illegal, but you tax them so heavily that anybody with any common sense chooses a safer alternative. Mm-hmm. And so, it's really hard to get a chemical banned, or people like try to jump through hoops to use whatever they think is the best chemical for their crops. But if you make that the most expensive, ridiculously inconvenient thing for them to get, and have a safer alternative that is more affordable, maybe subsidized somehow, spend the money on subsidizing that to make it affordable rather than trying to keep the other stuff out. I think there's some other approaches that may be more effective. People don't like to be told not to use something, but if there's a financial reason to do something, that seems to resonate with people better in a lot of cases, and from my perspective anyhow. Yeah. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I'm still fighting, although I can't bring my mother back. There's no doubt it was not because of environment. And I'm in South Florida. Specifically, we have golf courses on every block. There's one near my mother's house. The mold in the home and the things they sprayed back then. They used to bomb the homes, not literally, but with the, different types of bugs killer and bug spray. And they don't even allow people today in the house, but it's too late because a lot of those homes were built, 20, 30 years ago, and they still have those toxins in them. And it's just shocking and frustrating for even people who lost their battle that we don't take faster action. But again, knowing that you, Sarah, heading at least on the council makes me be able to sleep a little bit more, even though I don't sleep anyway. But I'm really, we're grateful for, again, all the work you've done. I hope everyone will support the new book. I'm honored that I have a copy. I've been able to read it, share it. Some of my own close friends are in there. Sending love to Steve Squires too, and hope to see you again very soon at the next at the World Parkinson Congress. I hope everyone out there will join us there in Arizona. We'll definitely film something for this podcast. I hope I'll call Margaret and we'll do something from there live as we wrap up today, because again, the show really never ends. We have to continue to advocate from our homes. I mean, there's no price. It's free. And it's really priceless in a way to help save lives and our future, our children, those like Sarah battling today. It means so much to all of us in our heart. But Sarah, I was wondering if you could leave a message today, or what message of encouragement can you leave for the Parkinson's community who's hopefully watching this, sharing this, and supporting you every step of the way?
I mean, I think the Parkinson's community has been the most amazing part of this journey for me. And so, but it's so frustrating for me to meet people who have not even yet connected with anybody else from the Parkinson's community. People who tell me, oh, you're the first person I've talked to with Parkinson's. I'm like, what? That has been the most helpful thing for me. And so, as a Parkinson's community, anything we can do to reach out and help collect others from who are suffering alone, I think can have a huge impact and benefit. And by sharing our stories and getting those out there, I think it makes it easier for others to feel more comfortable being open with their diagnosis within their communities as well. And so whatever, I feel like anytime somebody shares their story, they're making it easier for the next person to help break the stigma or whatever they fear about telling their family or their coworkers or even admitting to themselves that they have Parkinson's. And so, I think the more we speak up, the easier it makes it for everyone.
And thanks for supporting us, the show, and me over the years. Again, not at night, unfortunately, I don't probably lose all the sleep because I'm so wish my mother was here to, speak to you, because I think if you two had a FaceTime, she would have smiled, and she felt really alone. Our whole family didn't know anyone else. We didn't even know there was a disease part of the word Parkinson disease. But today, I'm surrounded by individuals I consider family like you, and I wouldn't get through it without you. So thank you. I wanted to send the show to Margaret to wrap up.
Yeah, Sarah, we just wanted to thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And, as you shared some of your early stories about participating in studies at the Cleveland Clinic and ultimately becoming an endurance athlete, I think you're a prime example of how action can become passion, and how you really turn your diagnosis into an action-oriented mindset, and one that, like you said, collects those around you. So our force just only grows bigger. And I'm so thankful that you took the time to share that story. And as we talked about, other listeners really hopefully being inspired and doing the same in their locations as well. So thank you so much. Keep doing everything you're doing. And we're glad to have you as one of the leaders in this fight.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to the Parkinson's community and everybody else who's out there advocating and supporting us.
Thank you, Sarah, and thanks, Margaret. It's been another honor to be here with you today, and we again have so many more to come because we still have work to be done. But this has been another episode of the Parkinson's Policy Podcast. I want to thank our audience. Please share the show. Please, more importantly, reach out to your representatives and get a copy also of Sarah's book. But on the Parkinson's Policy Podcast, and there it is, we need the socks next time, where we advocate together to raise awareness and advance meaningful policy for the Parkinson's community. And again, this show wouldn't be successful if it wasn't for all of you and the hard work behind the scenes of Adam and all Power Over Parkinson's. Margaret, again, it's an honor to be with you today, and look forward to many more to come.